Hi, and welcome to Let's Talk Motivation. I'm Serena Miranda, your host, and today we have a very special guest. And I want to say today's guest is really where she needs to be for me at my time in my life. And Khrystyne Jaspers, right? Did I say your first name correctly? Okay. And she is the founder of Space Jams. And I'm going to let her explain exactly what she does because I'm excited. First of all, I love the name, but so tell us what you do, Khrystyne.
Yeah. Hi. Thank you so much for having me, Serena. This is so kind. I'm so excited to talk with you. And who knew that you needed me in your life at this time? It's perfect.
Seriously.
So my name is Khrystyne. I live in New York City with my kids. I have two kids and my husband. We live in a one-bedroom apartment. And that was started out of just that's what we could get. And it's become just kind of a way of life. And so somewhere along the lines of me just surviving and trying to figure out how to live with kids in a smaller space, it really turned into a business and helping coach people in their spaces. And so Space Jams is really about, yes, the things in our home can hold us back, but 99% of the problem is actually in our head and what we believe about what we have. And so I coach people and help people reimagine what's possible in their spaces. I feel like in this day and age, people are looking to downsize. They're looking for ways to be sustainable with less. And so helping them reimagine what's possible where they are versus having to upgrade and have more.
That is so wonderful. And I've been to New York one time, but I have seen, being that I'm also in real estate with my husband's a broker, I've seen New York real estate and it's in Manhattan. And I have a friend that lives there. I forgot the twins live there in Manhattan, and the spaces are small.
Yeah.
And compared to like what we're used to. And I had made reference to, I'm in Texas and everything in Texas is big. I think that's a motto of ours. I don't know. Our homes can be big, our trucks are big. Sometimes the hair is a little big. So we have a lot of space. Plus we have a lot more like land. So I live in San Antonio, Texas, and we're kind of spread out. So in my home right now, I live almost in an acre. It's like 0.75 of an acre. So it's a lot of space, and we take that for granted a lot. And I'm in the time right now where we're packing up. We're moving out of this house that we've lived in for over 10 years and raised our kids, elementary, middle school, and high school here. And it's about 3,500 square feet. And we are downsizing to a little under half of that size. And the closets are smaller. The home that we're moving into, it was built probably in the late 70s. The closets are smaller. The rooms are smaller. The kitchen. I'm having a little bit of a culture shock. But it's all good. You know, I'm ready for the change. I'm embracing the change. And my kids have been actually fairly willing, and as young adults, some people don't like change like that. That's drastic change to move from all this space to more minimal space. But they've been really happy, and I already moved them over there. I moved all their stuff and the closets and the beds and furniture. And I told them the other day, I said, "So what do you think?" And they're like, "We love it. We love it. Everything has its place now. I only took what I needed." And so it's been nice. So, but tell me, what is the first step? What have you seen because I know I'm having a little bit of, it took me a while to get into my room and start going through my stuff.
Yeah.
Because I want to keep everything.
Yeah, I think that you already kind of said the first step is just starting to build belief that it's possible, that maybe this couldn't be the worst thing that's ever happened to you. Maybe on the other side of more, there could be even more freedom with less. And I think building that belief, especially like what you said, when you're in a culture where more, like it's just big, right? And I was actually born in Houston, so I don't remember Texas, but I know about that mentality, and it can be hard when the culture around you is like, why would you do that? Like, you have this beautiful big house. Why would you downsize? And we start to question, is this a bad move? Should I do this? Maybe I'm crazy. But just taking those steps to build belief, like asking your kids and them saying, like remembering and reminding yourself, wow, maybe this could actually be really good. And that was huge for us. Of everyone kept asking me, well, when are you getting a 2-bedroom? Because you have kids, like you're in a 1-bedroom still. And it wasn't until I started asking myself, no, what if this could be great? What if I could make this work? That I was actually able to start seeing possibility and seeing opportunity where before I just saw lack and scarcity, you know?
Yeah. Yes, exactly. And what I find is like the clothes is one thing. And I've actually been okay with that part, the shoes and the clothes. We don't have a whole lot of seasons, so it's either hot or not hot, or kind of not hot, but it's always hot. Okay. So I separated some of my winter, like we'll have like 3 days of nice sweater weather. And the rest of the stuff can be used all the time. But where I'm having the hardest part is my kids' things from when they were little.
I knew you were going to say that. When you said it, I am like, I bet she's going, because you had said how you'd raise them there, right? And it's hard. And I think that's a huge part of why when I started to build my business, wanting to blend the coaching with the actual organizing and functionality, because whether we realize it or not, we attach meaning to belongings and to things.
Yes, we do.
And sometimes we don't realize it until it comes to like, okay, we have to separate, and then we have to start to feel all that anxiety and those feelings towards it. And I think just remembering that this thing is not my child. This thing is not that memory. I can have that memory without this thing, is just starting to build that thought process is really helpful. The end of my motherhood kind of happened in a way I didn't expect. And so I was trying to move baby things out of our home, and I was feeling so much, feeling that, oh my goodness, like I'm giving away a part of myself that's very special and meaningful. And it's okay to sit with it and realize, oh, like I feel this way because of this, because we brought our kids here, we raised them here, or this part of it. And then realizing I can still have that without this thing is really important. And sometimes you're ready to get rid of it and sometimes you're not. And that's okay. But realize separating it a little bit from yourself and seeing, okay, what is it about this thing that I'm attaching to or attaching part of myself to has been really helpful for me, because I have also encountered, I think all of us have to go through that process in some way or another.
Yes. And, I think the digital age has brought us some better choices. Like I have a chest that was my grandmother, my great grandmother's. It's an old wooden chest, all cedar. And in there is where I have all the kids' art. And I had just seen something came through an email or something where you could take their art, scan it, and make a book or a digital book. And so I just told my husband the other day, I said, I want to go through all this artwork and get a good scanner, or take it somewhere where they'll professionally scan it and make a book for us, for my mom, the grandma, for the kids, so they can show their kids one day. And it's just, I think we're more willing to keep one book than us chest full of art. Even if I take a picture, like the things I can't scan, there are cameras that are so high resolution that it'll look like the original art. So I'm excited to do that with their artwork and create something that's all together for them, for me to have memories, for them also, and then for my mother, who really has a hard time getting rid of things.
Well, I feel like, and that's something else I always try to help people understand. So like having a box in your home where you have these sentimental things, maybe you haven't thought about that thing in years, but the second you see it, its value increases to you, right?
Yes.
But so instead of just saying, I have to keep it because I feel, thinking, okay, how could I reuse this so I'm actually enjoying it in real life and it's not just taking up a space in my closet, which making the book. Or I was with a client last week who had all these t-shirts from fun places she's visited, and she was having a hard time. And we talked about, maybe you can make a t-shirt quilt and you could use the t-shirts that you're just jamming up your drawers that you're never wearing and
Mm-hmm.
still have them in a different capacity. And so, yeah, definitely pulling it out of a box and reimagining, okay, how could I actually enjoy this rather than just storing it?
That is so true because my father passed away in 2011 and my mom still has all his clothes.
Yeah.
And we have six between my sister and I, there's six grandkids. And just this year I said, Mom, I think it's time to take all of Dad's things, separate them into six piles, and make each one of the kids a quilt. That way they have a piece of grandpa and you know that his memory has been passed on to the next generation because those quilts will last. I mean, I still have a quilt from my grandmother, and those things we keep a little bit more. They're throws on the couch. And then the kids have that memory, but a quilt is a great idea.
Yeah. Have you read you should get, I tell everyone about this book, but
What
there's
is
a
it called?
book called The Gentle Art of Swedish Death Cleaning.
We talked about that earlier. No, I haven't read it, but you mentioned it earlier. The Gentle Art
of Swedish Death Cleaning. It is so good. And it's really, it's this idea of you have to deal with your stuff because when you don't deal with it, people are forced to deal with it when you pass and it doesn't go with you. And just this being intentional with going through what you have and realizing it might have held a memory to you, but that doesn't mean the next person's going to feel that attachment to it. Or it's just so beautifully and practically written. I just am so obsessed with this book and this lady. I want to go meet her and hug her, but
oh my gosh, I'm going to get it. I'm definitely going to get it because I need to get my mom on the same page. She comes from, can you hear that? I think can you hear the binging from my phone or is it just in my head? I tell everybody I'm on a Zoom. Please don't bother me. And they're all texting right now.
Of course.
But yes, my mom comes from a generation where you keep things. You don't get rid of things. And then she's Latina. So she was raised in Mexico. She's from Mexico. So you don't get rid of things. That's like, that could be insulting for the dead. She keeps things forever. And we're trying between my sister and I to help her get rid of some things. Right. And we joke all the time. We're like, okay, Mom, we're going to send you somewhere. And then when you come back, everything will be gone. And she gets like, no, don't do that to me. But I think she's getting ready because she's seeing us downsize. And she's like, I'm not going to be living near you. I want to live near you in a smaller house. And so now she's seeing the process, which I think has helped her. My sister did it. She just went downsized also. And now I'm doing it. And so hopefully
I don't know how old she is, but this book is written by, she says she's 80 to 100. So it's written by an older woman who is moving in that process of, I'm moving from our home into a smaller apartment. And
she's 79, my mom. So perfect. I'm going to get it to her birthday. She'll be her 80th birthday is coming up in September.
It'll be perfect.
I think so. And I tell her, I said, Mom, I'm like, we travel. We like to travel. I'm like, we like to go, especially with all the grandkids. Her grandkids now are in their early 20s. And so they're in like a transition stage. They're traveling or moving to different cities, getting their first jobs. And I was like, we need to be more mobile. I don't want to be stuck to a big house that needs to have the yard watered, that needs to have someone come and check on it all the time. And I was like, and the yards, the water, forget it. I mean, I just want to put rock everywhere because water's expensive. And for some reason in my neighborhood, it's like I water one pot and then the price of my water bill goes up, triples. So I told Ron, I was like, no more watering. I don't want give me fake plants. I'm like, I think this is the only one. And look, it's a little wilty. I need to water it.
I was thinking it was beautiful.
Oh, thank you. I'm taking him with me. The big guy is going to the downside.
It's nice.
But yeah, so how did you, I know you moved into your apartment, but how did you decide to start the coaching? Like, where did you feel that? Because I've met organizers and they just go in there and boom, they'll help you organize your closet, your life, but there's not coaching attached to it. Yeah. So how do you bring the two together?
Yeah, so I was just living in our apartment and just doing my thing, like my real life, my real life
Yeah.
thing. And I was sharing about it, organic marketing on Instagram, but it wasn't my business. And in the process for my business, I had decided to get life coaching so I could coach the girls on my team. And as I was going through it, I realized, oh my goodness, this is exactly what people work through in their homes. They just don't realize it.
Mm,
They think the problem is this, but it's really all these stories and beliefs that they have. And they don't even know. Like, I didn't even realize until I was going through it. And so I kind of came out of there with, I really want to let this other business go. And I really want to create something where I help people in their homes, because I believe that the way we live in our home impacts the way we are mothers and work. Like, I believe it impacts all the areas we just don't realize sometimes, the chaos and the confusion. And so, but then I kind of did some undercover searching when I was building it. And I went and I got a quote for someone to come organize my very organized 1-bedroom apartment. And they quoted me this astronomical number to come and
oh
organize.
my gosh.
And they asked me, they said, how organized is your home? And I'm like, it's pretty organized. And they quoted me like $5,000 to come and just revamp my house without seeing it.
Oh
And
my God. They
I,
didn't even go. They didn't even show up.
well, they didn't even look at it. They just were taking my word for it that it was very organized, and they just quoted me $5,000. And I realized, but they're going to just come in and do their own thing. What if I'm a hoarder? Or what if I just drop things and don't put things away? Like, that's not actually
Yes.
solving the problem. And so if I help people, I want to help them, yes, and give them ideas. And like, we can move things here, of course. But at the end of the day, I want to give them the skills that they need and the tools so that when I'm gone, the work that we did together continues and it goes with them. And it's
Exactly.
a lifestyle versus just a fix.
That's awesome. So do you do this virtually or is this just in person in your community?
I do both. So
Ooh.
virtually I do virtual coaching. So like, let's say you had a space that you wanted to work on. We
Mhm.
would set up meetings and have that accountability and, okay, how did that goal go? Okay, I didn't do it. Okay, let's talk about why. What came up for you as you were trying to get rid of the clothes or trying to move this out or whatever it might be. And
Yeah.
then if for people who are local, I actually do go into their homes and we work on the space together. We declutter and purge and reassess how to utilize the space. And it's mostly smaller spaces. I think there's a lot of people. I was very discouraged on social media because you see these beautiful closets being organized and you're like, well, that's lovely. Of course, anyone would want to live there. But what about the really weird corner that this apartment has that I can't get rid of because it's an apartment building? And
Yeah.
so I'm very passionate about being with the people who like, I want to make this something special, but it's not conventional at all. And so,
Right.
yeah.
Well, I think it's more real life because there's a lot more people that have a smaller space. I think like the small closet, if you live in a home that's from the 70s
Yeah.
and you renovated a home from the 70s or even the 80s, those closets and the footprint of the home is smaller.
Yeah.
So when we moved our kids' furniture into the new home, the beds. I was like, oh my God. I was like, we got giant beds. And my son was like, this will work. And, it was like Jenga. We kind of maneuvered. We put the nightstands are in his closet on the ends. One.
Yeah.
So he's got, yeah. So it's giving him a creative side. Right. And we're repurposing some of the furniture and the space that we had in there originally, like for my daughter. I'm gonna have to send you pictures
Yes, please.
because I'm so proud of myself and of my kids that we're moving in this direction for sure.
Well, and I think, and you're a realtor, so I'm sure you can really attest to this. I think in our country, it's very much of, okay, here's this home. It's a 5-bedroom, it's a 3-bath. Here's the formal living room. Here's the dining room. And
Yeah.
being in an apartment, being in a smaller space, you have to kind of like unlock the creativity by saying, okay, this is the space. What do I need it to be for me? And
Mhm.
versus they told me this is a neat eating nook, but I actually really need to function as a storage for shoes and coats. And I think a lot of people get hung up on, well, this is the dining room, so it has to be a dining room versus it can be whatever you need it to
Yes.
be for you. And you don't have to have the king size bed because everyone tells you you're this age and you should have a king size bed. Like, you need to decide for you what matters in this space. If having a king size bed is your most important thing, then do it. But you don't have to do it because everyone's expecting you to do it or telling you to do it that way.
Or that's how it's staged.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah. Like, I can only see it this way because that's what I was shown, versus this possibility of what this could be and could be reimagined as.
That is so neat that you said that, because a friend of mine just recently put on her Instagram that the kitchen nook is now her reading quiet space. And she put a rug and she got 2 cozy big swivel chairs. And when her sister comes over, her and her sister sit there, drink their wine or drink their coffee and just chat. And that's where she goes to read a book, because the countertop in her kitchen, the bar area, is where everyone sits to eat. So she's like, I don't need another kitchen table over there. I need a space for me to have a quiet coffee or a glass of wine with my sister. So I am learning that, because we get so much, especially if you're in real estate, we get so conditioned to be, the space needs to be how it's been designed by whoever designed the home. And you're right. It's not about that. It's about us. It's about our space and our family and what we need.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And helping, and as a realtor, I'm sure helping people see that possibility where maybe they don't immediately see it. Right. I love watching, I love and hate watching House Hunters because the people drive me crazy. I'm like, you can't see that this is exactly what you want. I don't understand.
I know. We watch those shows a lot, and I'm like, these people are crazy.
Yes. I'm like, the international ones, like, you're right in the square of Paris. What is wrong with you? Like,
I know. I'd take whatever was available right there.
I know, right?
And what I've noticed also, because our family we're kind of in that transition stage. My kids are out of high school, traveling, and the 2 youngest wanted to study Spanish. And we sent them to Costa Rica with an organization called EF Languages. And I say their name because it's so amazing. But my kids went from this life that they had, right, where it was very, spacious in their own bathrooms, to sharing a little condo with twin beds and this little bitty kitchen and 1 bathroom. And they came back with so much more appreciation to what they have. And then, but they've also, I think that's why it's made it easy to transition, because they've experienced something else and they survived. They survived with 1 suitcase of clothes for 3 months, and they don't need a closet full of stuff, I mean, and so that's been really eye-opening for us as a family, for sure.
That's so funny that you said that, because our journey to city living, to small space, began living abroad. We taught English in China in a beautiful, moldy 1-bedroom apartment. But yeah, you realize this is not like, the apartment is not the nicest, but the life that we're living is so vibrant and rich. And it's so much more than having whatever I think I might need to have. And you start to realize maybe happiness is not out there in a store. Maybe it's found in the experiences I'm creating as a human with the people I care about and doing things I care about.
That is so awesome. We'll have to talk about that, the traveling. My oldest son right now is in Singapore, and he got to stay with a host family. And he's gone to Japan, to Rome, and to Singapore. And in Japan and in Singapore, he was with a host mother. And it's been a little room with a little fan and, this big Texas boy. And he's like, I think it was almost like that Band-Aid that you don't want to take off. It hurts. It's going to hurt.
Yeah.
But when you rip it off, you're like, wow, that wasn't that bad. I'm going to be okay. And traveling has, I think, been that Band-Aid pull for my kids, especially so young. And I think it's going to help them in their journey into adulthood, for sure. I recommend it. anybody.
And I think what you're also describing traveling where you're actually experiencing the culture that you're traveling to versus, oh, we're in like this really nice version of this. Like you have to actually like really truly experience that country's people's experience just to have that kind of benefit and to know like, oh, this is the size of apartments in most of the world, or this is what thing people live, most people in Europe don't have a washer and dryer. Like they don't have a dryer, they have a washer, but dryers are kind of a rarity. So, and that's normal. That's not bizarre to them. That's just totally normal. To have a dryer is bizarre,
Yes. Or ice. I
Yeah.
told my, I don't know if I could survive. I like my big cups of ice. I can't know if I could. My son is like the AC and the ice. He goes, that's what I'm excited to come back to, Mom. And driving. He goes, I don't, he doesn't drive anywhere. He walks or rides the train or rides the bus everywhere he goes. So he's ready to have his own wheels for a little bit.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So let me ask you a question about community and legacy. So what kind of legacy are you hoping to build through your work?
Yeah. So what I do for my kids and my husband. We living in a smaller space means living in the city that we love and living a life that we want to live. We caught that travel bug so early. We were only in our early 20s when we moved to China. And we knew that we wanted to give our kids that experience of traveling and experiencing and being out of that fish out of water. And but when you live in an expensive city and you're feeling like you have to upgrade and get more space, suddenly all your money is going into that space, right? And so for us, choosing to live in smaller spaces meant we can take our kids and travel still. We can choose maybe not to take that promotion because it means less time away, right? We have that freedom to make those choices. And so for us, the legacy I'm creating is first with my family, my kids, of just because someone tells you that you need this doesn't mean that's true. Like there's so much more in life, and having that compassion for others and that gratitude, real gratitude for what you have versus just filling a space. But more than that, past my kids, is I want to give other families that benefit too of like you can have a life that's meaningful for you in the space that you're in. Even if you didn't think it was possible in that space, you can create that. You can create that for yourself. And maybe you won't be there forever, but gratitude and contentment isn't out there waiting for you. You can find it right now. And when you do find it, it changes the way you view everything about your life. And so
That is so true.
Yeah, helping people find that for themselves and just believing that it's possible, believing, well, if Khrystyne can truly like look around her 1-bedroom apartment and feel joy and contentment, maybe I can do that too, and
Exactly.
helping people believe that about themselves.
Exactly. Yeah, that's so true. And so who has poured into you, and how has that shaped how you show up for others?
So there's a couple of people that I found, a couple of house tours I found through apartment therapy when I was first starting out in this smaller space. And they inspired me because they were that person for me that was like, okay, if she can do this, I can do this. And it's been such a huge, like, I can't even believe I'm going to say this, but each one of those people have become friends. And they become mentors and people I look up to and can talk to now, because as I've started my journey, our house has also been featured and I've been able to have those connections with those people. So that's so cool and now people seeing my house and that being that for them, it just feels like this full circle of you inspired me and then I did it and now other people are doing it too. And that's been really cool. And then just incredible women in the organizing and minimalist community. I've met some really incredible older women who are kind of bucking that trend of you have to have more, and like what you're doing of downsizing. And that inspires me that maybe I'm not ruining my family. Maybe this could be really good. And they encourage me to keep going. And this is good for your kids. This is a gift that you're giving your kids. And of course, my mom too has always been so encouraging in that journey of, Khrystyne, like you create the childhood you want them to have. That's nothing
right.
else can do that. You have to do that. And so those older women especially have been so inspiring, of just looking down the road a couple of years and realizing that there's hope and there's something I'm still working towards as well.
Right. And this isn't the first time that we've had to downsize, because in 2008, my husband was a mortgage broker. So I like to say we survived the crash of '08.
Yeah.
And we had to sell our house at that time, but that was more out of need. And again, move into a, half the size home. And that was, our kids were younger. And I don't think they really understood. To them, it was more fun. But I remember, I mean, to me, because those type of, when you have to do something like that, it hurts, I think, a little bit more than when it's your choice. And my kids, my youngest, I brought him home from the hospital to that home, and I picked out the brick on that home. I picked out the granite on that, in that kitchen. And so that movement, I think, is a little harder, and it has a little more sting. But I remember we would tell each other, it's okay, because we have our health, we have our family, we have support. I was like, this, and I like to quote, this too shall pass. It's a moment in our lives. And we laugh because we look back and we think to ourselves, my husband and I were like, man, do you remember how we would sit on that couch and be like, I think I had to get a little Christmas tree that year, because a big Christmas tree that I had in my previous home didn't fit. So we went and bought a small Christmas tree, and we would joke. We'd be like, it was like the Charlie Brown, little Charlie Brown Christmas tree. But where I feel I should have been more mindful of that journey, is I didn't take any pictures in that home, because it hurt, right? It was a painful move for me. And I think I have one or two, or I think I have one or two where I would angle it really, so it was just the child sitting on the couch, not the background where we had some boxes by my kitchen table. I mean, it was a quick move, right? We had to get out quickly. But those moves, like, what do you do? What kind of advice do you have for somebody that has to make a painful move like that, and that adjustment?
I'm so sorry that happened to you. I mean, I can't imagine how painful it must have been.
It was, but I think back now, and it doesn't hurt anymore. It was like, my kids survived. They actually had a lot of fun. We thrived. The money that we saved making that move, we put the kids in more sports. We were very active in our church, and it hurt for us a little bit. It's like, it only hurts for a small amount of time. It feels like forever. But now we look back and we laugh. We're like, oh, that was so, we laugh. We're like, how we thought it was the end of the world, and it's not. It's just a moment in your life. And like you said, how I show up for my kids and my husband, that's what mattered. And they were happy. They enjoyed their space. They made it their own. And then we moved out, and then we moved on, right? To the next journey.
I guess I have a similar story. It's not about space, but it's about when the story that you envisioned your life to be is not what happens. And that was last year. We were trying to have our third child and ended up losing the baby, and then tried again and had another miscarriage. And so that wasn't the end of how I envisioned motherhood ending for me. And in the moment, it felt so cruel, and it felt like, this is not what I signed up for. This is not how it should be. I don't want the end of this to be pain. And I think the first thing is allowing yourself to feel those things, and not just pushing it down, and allowing that disappointment and that grief. And I've discovered that there's no condemnation in those feelings, and we have to allow ourselves to process them and feel on them. I know for me, walking and running was huge, of just allowing myself to feel. And then I think when you do that, what you are saying, on the other side of that feeling, you realize, this hurt, but it didn't kill me. Like, I'm here and I'm still going. And so maybe I've lost a lot, yes, but I know that I can keep going. And I know that, like you said, this is going to pass. And this is now a huge part of my story. And this is a part of who I am. but I don't regret that part anymore, and it's a huge part of what makes us us and our family us. And so I think allowing yourself to feel, but then also remembering that just because it's hard or it's broken doesn't mean it can't be a part of your story, and it can't be a beautiful part of who you are. And so that's probably what I would say to anyone who's kind of going through this. You're forced into something you're not choosing.
Right.
Giving yourself that compassion, but also choosing to find gratitude even in the littlest things of like my kids were the biggest part of my healing was my kids, because yes, I'm feeling this pain of loss, but then I look over and I have these two beautiful children, right? So how can I feel that loss forever if I can feel gratitude for what I have? And I'm sure you experience the same thing with your home of it's not what it was, but it's holding our family. It's keeping our family safe. We're all together. We have our health. We have extra money because we did downsize, right?
Yes.
When you start changing those thought patterns, you start to see what might be blinded from you in that suffering and that hurt.
Right. And then what helped me also was focusing on, I had to go back to the classroom because my husband was the primary breadwinner at the time. And then there was no business. It was like from zero, it went from 100 to zero, So I went back to teaching, and I just dove in, and I got a lot of opportunities out of that, and focusing on my own journey also helped as well. Like, where do I go from here? What type of teacher will I be? How will I show up every day? And I had just had another podcast with somebody recently, and we talked about we never know, like when we're around people, we never know what they're going through at the time. And keeping mindful of that, especially when, like right now, the economy seems to be blipping, and people are having to make hard decisions and maybe move or downsize, and being mindful of that in people's journey when we're around everybody, right? So I really think your coaching and what you do is really important for people, because everyone needs someone to help guide them through those changes in our life.
Yeah.
Right.
I always say coaching is not, you don't hire a coach because you're not capable. You are capable, but you need someone to help remind you that you're capable. Because sometimes you need someone to hold your arms up and be like, okay,
definitely.
It's too heavy right now. I need you to remind me that I can do this. I need you to remind me why this is important. And so I think that's why coaching is so beautiful. And I love that so many people are doing it, because we need those people in our life to remind us of what we're capable of doing, even when it's hard.
Yes. Yes. I have a coach, a business coach. And I think after I turned 50, I decided that's one of the things I needed so I could move my business journey forward. Primarily, I'm an insurance broker. I do real estate kind of on the side with my husband, but and a business strategist. I like to help people figure out their risk. And that coaching that I've received from her has really helped me dial in on my journey as a business owner. So in whatever area, you can find a coach to help make sure and kind of be that accountability on your journey, whether it's organizing your home or downsizing or for your own personal business. It is a great, I am very glad that more people are coaching now. Yeah. It's definitely something we needed.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think it's more accessible. Sure, the coaches have been around, but now there's just some people are really good at it.
Yeah, definitely.
So what mantra or what quote keeps you going?
I think a quote that I always remind myself, and it comes from running, is just because it's hard doesn't mean it's wrong. And sometimes when you're running, and I try to run faster races. So when you're racing and you're running faster, it can be very painful. And your body is telling you, shut down. This is not right. You're doing the wrong thing. Like, you need to stop. You need to stop. And just reminding yourself that sometimes the thing that you need to do is going to feel hard in the moment, but just because it's hard doesn't mean you're doing the wrong thing. That is so true. I think sometimes that's a great quote. I like that. I'm going to keep that one. I'm going to do that. So tell us, Khrystyne, where is your journey? What do you see yourself in a year, 5 years? That's a great question. Oh man. And I probably need to hire a coach to help me see the future better. I'm definitely wanting to speak more. So speaking, I know that's how we met, was through Jess and keynote speaking. I want to talk and inspire and help people reimagine what's possible where they are. I want them to realize that they can find peace and gratitude no matter what their space in life looks like right now. So definitely, I think my future I see myself more on stage and more talking and speaking. And I'm writing a book currently about our own experience with miscarriage, and obviously coaching and working with more and more families and helping to inspire them with what's possible.
That's amazing. I think that's a great plan. And I look forward to watching you through your journey and maybe going to hear you speak. I would love to keep that in, keep us talking, because I'm sure we could have a lot more conversations about this. I'm very thankful for you joining us on Let's Talk Motivation. And we will share your social media on how people can get a hold of you and learn more from you. And if they need your coaching or your virtual help, which I might, all the way here in Texas. So we'll definitely share that information as well. Thank you again, Khrystyne, for joining us.
Thank you, Serena. So nice talking.
Have a great day.
Thank you.